why don't we roll into our next topic? AMD is rolling out a fix for burnt Ryzen X3D CPUs. Let's go ahead and pop this up here. This is originally covered by Extreme Tech, I think. Well, maybe not originally, but they're one of the sources we've got. Oh, and OnTech has covered this as well. All right, so here you go. This is a good look at the picture here. Whew.
Yikes.
That's a spicy CPU socket right here. AMD released an official statement. Thanks, Gavin. We have root caused the issue and have already distributed a new AGESA that puts measures in place on certain power rails on AM5 motherboards to prevent the CPU from operating beyond its specification limits, including a cap on SoC voltage at 1.3 volts. This doesn't affect their ability to overclock memory using Expo or XMP kits or boost performance using PBO technology. They are expecting this fix to roll out through all of their board partners and blah, blah, blah. Apparently, Asus and MSI had already implemented their own fixes prior to AMD and had suggested that excessive voltages in Expo memory profiles had allowed the SoC voltage to reach unsafe levels. Whew. They did not clarify if there were any other issues that they found or whether non-X3D processors were also at risk, but I would be kind of surprised if they were. They've been out there for quite a lot longer at this point, and they draw quite a lot more power. So if you're running at the same voltages or higher in some cases, and you're drawing more current, I really don't see how we wouldn't have noticed this at some point. Steve from Gamers Nexus has apparently acquired Speed Rookie. That's the username of the owner of that CPU. Speed Rookie's CPU and motherboard. So maybe there'll be some kind of further insight. But if AMD's got this nailed down and they're not just issuing a denial, then it seems like it's probably solved at this point. I mean, that definitely looks like power got out of hand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an electronics engineer, so Dan's holding his phone like this, which is a car key. I see. Hello, wife. Do you want to say hi to the WAN show? She shrugged. I think that means yes. At least that's how I interpret it late at night, if you know what I mean. I mean, what? Shrug? It's kind of assent. Anywho.
Bye.
So yeah, Riley's adding a discussion question right now. Riley, go home. Your work day's over. But asks, has more hardware been failing recently than used to be the norm? Or is this kind of thing more normal than it seems to me? I mean, CPUs failing?
Yeah, that's
Definitely
pretty
weird.
abnormal. Yeah. Hardware in general, I would say probably no, to be honest. But CPUs, yes.
Yeah, if anything, I would say the designs for motherboards these days are far more robust than what we used to have in the past like electrolytic capacitors and stuff like
liquid
that.
Caps that was fun.
At least for enthusiasts, the emphasis that gets placed on cooling these days by manufacturers, I think that while they're certainly pumping more power through these things, there's a lot more heat output. There's a lot more attentiveness to keeping things cool and maintaining the longevity of these devices. Like, as a whole, the industry has learned a lot about the doodads and gizmos that they're playing around with, right? And if you're a manufacturer, you do not want a failure, at least not within the 1 to 3 years that most of them offer a warranty on their products. So, I mean, with that said, I'm not saying that mistakes ever get made. I'm not saying mistakes never get made. I mean, you ask someone like a Louis Rossmann about, MacBooks, and he'll tell you all about design flaws for days or whatever. But, overall, I can't say that it seems any worse to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like we said kind of at the beginning, probably not worse overall. But it is surprising for it to hit CPUs. CPUs have always kind of been the rock solid piece of hardware in your computer. Go through multiple boards for one extremely long-term CPU sometimes. Yeah. And
I feel like woefully unreliable stuff was way more common back then. Like, think about the early 680i motherboards. Remember those? They were awful. They failed all over the place. Everybody knew it. I haven't seen just a known bad part like that in a long time.
Yeah, I feel like we might have had like a few years there where it was abnormally low, and we might be coming back out of that, and that might be why he's feeling it more. But it was definitely like,
yeah,
it was definitely pretty freaking bad.
Yeah, Floatplane chat, shout out OCZ. Yeah, I mean their memory modules would just drop dead spontaneously because
RAM used to, like, one of the first things I would check when diagnosing computers was, does it have liquid caps? And then if there's a problem, does it have liquid caps? No. Okay, is the RAM dead?
And OCZ would literally create kits of what was called UTT memory, okay, which is short for untested. They would have these UTT memory kits. They would sell them at like these insane speeds and really low latencies and high voltages, and I think they were just playing a numbers game where they bought this like cheap bargain memory, basically went, yeah, if anything goes wrong with it, lifetime warranty, we got you, and then they just counted on few enough of the buyers actually running those volts through them, and in the event that they did, few enough of them bothering to RMA it, because you know what, realistically, what? Do I really even want a replacement for this? Or because the technology industry was moving so fast, would I rather just upgrade to something else at this point? Anyway, you know what? Forget it. I think that was the entire basis of their company.
Yeah, I mean,
Agility SSDs, anyone?
Oh.
You know what's funny is...
some of... Yeah. That model where they just buy all this like trash, sometimes some of it works for a really long time.
I was going to say, so I was actually the product manager for OCZ at NCIX for a short period of time. And their RAM was fine in those days, other than the very high spec stuff, other than the very high spec DDR2, but that could have easily been down to the memory controllers just not being able to handle it because it was early days of DDR2. And it was rough. I don't think we've had a worse transition than the one from DDR1 to DDR2. At least not since then, anyway. DDR3 is kind of rough. Anyway, the point is, their RAM was actually mostly pretty good in those days, and depending on the batch, the SSDs were actually super reliable.
We had this, back in the day, had this green OCZ Agility 3. I just looked it up to make sure that I was right.
Yep.
And that thing went through...
probably years and years.
A ton of junk over a lot of years.
Except when they had bad batches.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Because that's the thing. It
was this gamble.
Bad QC is not always a problem.
It's not. It doesn't mean bad product.
It's only a problem when you don't catch something.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is why. Okay, so we used to do these factory tours, and we would often get pushback when we would try to show their failures. Because they would have like, a failure bin or whatever, where like something didn't work out. So
Sennheiser
they
was super mad. They didn't want us to show it was failed drivers for the HD800.
Yeah. And we were like, no, like this is a good story because this shows you're not going to ship them.
Yes. Oh man, we had to twist their arms so hard. Like, I don't like profiling, but Germans, okay?
German perfection.
There's a sense of, again, this is something I can't relate to, right? But there's this like cultural sense of pride in German craftsmanship, right?
So they didn't want to show that there could be a flaw.
And I'm sitting here going, no, this is a story about like painstakingly thorough German quality control. It doesn't have to be a story about make it right the first time, every time.
Yeah, like we were trying to show that it was cool that this happened. We weren't trying to dog on them, but it took some convincing. Yeah. I think eventually
they did.
Yeah.
We did end up including that in the video, and I felt that was a truly, really important part of the story.
Agreed.
Because they really did care a lot. They actually try, and I mean, I did that video testing out cheap sports tech a little while ago. And if you don't match the frequency response of the drivers in each ear, it's a noticeable problem in the listening experience. But that's what they were doing, was they were finding ones that didn't meet their standard, and they were making sure that the drivers were appropriately matched. Really great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that was a hilarious factory. Seeing the German versus the Japanese approach, like almost back to back,
cool.
right? There was only a few months in between, was really eye-opening.
Because we went to Omron afterwards.
Yeah, both countries and cultures
excellence
are well respected around the world for exactly that. But they come to this same conclusion in such utterly different ways, right? So, I mean, man, I forget if it was it Sennheiser or Cherry? I think it might have been Sennheiser. These were both in Germany, but they had these bulletin boards, and I will remember this forever till the day I die. First of all, both of them spotless, so clean you could eat off of any surface.
This was Sennheiser. I remember this too. This was wild.
Yeah. Okay. Spotless. Like it didn't look like a factory. It didn't smell like a factory. They were definitely making stuff.
You could eat off the floor.
You could eat off any surface.
Yes.
I swear to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, they had these bulletin boards, spaced out, very evenly. And they had things like safety bulletins, schedules, upcoming events, workplace safety notices, all that kind of thing. And then in one corner, I think it was the corner, they had just this arrangement of rectangles. And I stopped the tour and I said, is that to make sure that the way that all the other bulletins are posted is exactly the same on every one? And they're like, yeah.
Yes.
And so interviewing people there and talking to them, not just the business people, we got to talk to engineers as well. There's a different philosophy. So when and it was really interesting looking at both Cherry and Omron because they both make fundamentally the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So at Cherry there was, did we talk about how we were also at ZF? I don't know if we did in the video. Statute of limitations. I'm sure they're not going to get mad about it at this point. Anyway, the point is we also got to check out some ZF stuff, even if it didn't make it into the video. So ZF does a lot of work for the automotive industry, which is kind of a thing in Germany, right? And anyway, but it's the Cherry MX switch versus it was the Romer G that Omron and Logitech, who actually sponsored the video, was really focused on. And after talking to everyone and seeing everything that we did, the bottom line thing that I came away with, the two sort of different approaches to this same ultimate end goal, the two philosophies, was the German attitude was make it perfect, make it once, make it last, right? Whereas the Japanese approach was make it
really good,
pretty darn good, make it pretty near perfect.
And make it twice.
And make it last. So the way that the Cherry MX switch works, right, is there's a contact, but there's only one. It's a gold-plated contact, and Cherry will talk your ear off for a week about how they fine-tune the gold leaf on the thing and the size of the bump and blah 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 whatever else, right? But in the Romer G, there's actually two. So if one of them fails, the other one still works and the switch operates normally. And I thought those two approaches to the design of a reliable switch were so cool, so interesting. Probably there's no cost benefit one way or the other, making it absolutely perfect every time versus making it mostly perfect, but with redundancy. But it just came down to design philosophy, and I thought that was super cool.
You can see that in a lot of other products, a lot of other companies from those countries as well. It's very interesting.
And the Omron factory, also very clean.
Oh, yeah.
And I would eat off of most surfaces, but not quite all. Like it was okay if the bulletins were not arranged exactly the same way on every single board. That was okay,
Yeah.